Ex-smokers who successfully quit and have been smoke-free for years now. What did it? I'm probably like a lot of former smokers that tried to quit a number of times before being successful. Then a friend and I were out fishing, and he began talking about quitting smoking. He wanted to bet $50 that he could outlast me. Beer drinking and trash talking commenced, and the bet got up to $500. So I am way too cheap to lose a bet like that, and so I went weeks without the butts. My friend came around, admitted that he was back on the smokes, and paid up the $500. I was tempted to go back, but was feeling so much better without the cigs, kept it going. Ironically, the longer you stayed quit, the easier it was to afford losing the bet. That's why I quit last month. I realized after 8 years of smoking, I've spent around $4,300 on cigarettes. With the 8 or 9 years I've been smoking, I've spent over $40,000 Australian dollars on smokes. I'm about 20 days off of them, and in a month I will have saved $450. And that price is off imported smokes, which are half the price, if not cheaper. Quitting smoking is the easiest thing I've ever done. I've done it hundreds of times. This sounds like it's an Oscar Wilde quote edit. It is a Mark Twain quote. I am 4 years smoke-free. I have a serious mouse phobia. So when I decided I no longer wanted to smoke, I would force myself to look at pictures/videos of rodents. My brain quickly started associating smoking with mice. That's some serious psychological work right there. More like psychological warfare against himself. When you run out of worthy opponents, you start fighting yourself. If you know yourself and know your enemy, you need not fear the outcome of a 100 battles. Lil Sun Tzu on a Wednesday to you. I am a straight male and hate the thought of other people's whiners. To stop smoking, I would look at pictures and videos of penises when I craved a smoke. Well, now I chain smoke all day with Sebastian. Sometimes life throws you a curveball. Best thing I've read all day. I've read it all day at my desk. Work was slow, possibly even all week. Thanks for that. Went out one Thursday evening with some friends and friends of friends back when you could smoke in the pub. Got chatting to a girl, hit it off, and at the end of the night, said our goodbyes and parted with a vague plan to meet up again, maybe next week. Friday lunchtime, lasagna and a pint with some of the group from the night before when having a couple of pints at lunchtime was acceptable. I lit up a cigarette after eating, and the friend who had introduced me to the girl the previous night mentioned, "Oh, you know that girl you were talking to last night? She's not a big fan of smoking." I thought for a brief moment, stubbed out my Camel, crumpled up the packet that was left, threw my lighter, and have not been tempted to light up since. That was 1990, and this May we will have been married for 32 years. Something similar actually happened to a friend of mine. He was trying to hit on a girl while we were out one night. She turned him down and he asked why. She said something like, "I only date people who love life. If you loved life, you wouldn't be killing yourself with those." He told her that she was so fine that he quit. Then he balled up the pack and threw them in the trash. She laughed and gave him her number. They didn't date long, but that did actually motivate him to quit. Drove 10 hours with my father-in-law in the car. He smoked a pipe and inhaled it. At one point, he coughed so hard he puked out the window. Quit the next day. My MIL smoked like a chimney, including in the house, for 30 years after her divorce from my FL. My wife, her daughter, and I had a baby. We brought the baby over one weekend and all 3 of us got sick from how gross the house was. We told her we could not bring the baby there anymore. She quit that day. Hasn't smoked in 5 years. I had some very dumbass friends suggest earnestly that if you want to quit smoking, you just need to eat a cigarette. It will taste intolerable, then it will make you ill, you will vomit, and you won't like cigarettes anymore after all that. Don't do this. I am just telling the story, LOL. Get the damn Alan Carr book if you want to quit. Worked for me. Got the Alan Carr book and it was so repetitive that I was sure that the point was to quit so that you could stop reading the book. Quit the book, not the smokes. Doctor said I might have lung cancer. Quit January 18th, 2011. Well, was he right? Nope, I had an infection in my sternum that went into my lungs. Fractured ribs from a motorcycle a few months prior started it all. I read Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. I promise I'm not being paid for this. The comedian Paul F. Tompkins smoked for years but quit after reading this book, and would recommend it to anybody who wanted to try. I'm a big fan of his, so I decided it couldn't hurt. As soon as I started the book, I realized what it was doing. I figured I was way too smart for it, and that it would never work, even though I understood the points it was making and the psychology it was using. I continued to smoke as I was reading it, as the book instructs you to do, and was absolutely sure the cute little tricks it was using would never work and that I had just wasted $10. I finished the book, threw away the unsmoked half of the pack I was on, and haven't had so much as a craving since. I don't even vape. I've had absolutely no cravings and no nicotine in any way for almost 10 years now. I cannot explain it, but it worked immediately, in a way that nothing had worked up to that point, and wholeheartedly recommend it to anybody who is serious about quitting. Hey man, did you already subscribed on me? You don't? Subscribe and press like faster. ETA, worth pointing out that it's not a magic bullet and it doesn't work for everybody. To paraphrase a reply, it seems most effective on people who have a firm commitment to quitting, but just haven't been able to make it stick for whatever reason. If you've tried everything but nothing's worked, and you really truly don't want to be a smoker anymore, it's worth a shot. ETA 2. I just turned off notifications for this post because I really need to go to work, and I'm getting like 10 replies a minute. I'm glad so many people have experienced success with this book, and that so many others are interested in it. If you have questions, just read it. I read it as well. Been over 15 years and never even think about it. The book worked for me as well. I stupidly started again years later. I is an idiot. I'm vaping now, but I think I'm going to do the book again. There's a vaping-specific book you could try. I just listened to it 2 weeks ago today. Haven't vaped since. I tested myself with a night in the pub on Saturday, not tempted even for a minute. I bought a pack of cigarettes, my last one, and put it on that bowl next to the door where you put your keys. When I was a smoker, I always felt more in need of a smoke if I didn't have a pack. I sometimes went to buy cigarettes in the middle of the night, just to not feel that. I decided to stop 1 minute at a time. Each time I wanted to smoke, I would tell myself in 10 minutes, if I still want to smoke, I will, and then just move on to something else. Do not sit in front of a timer waiting. Usually a couple of minutes later, the need is not as urgent anymore. You don't have to think about an eternity smoke-free. You just need to make it 1 minute at a time. Eventually, it had been 3 weeks, and I wasn't about to ruin my efforts. Then 3 months, then a year. And no, it had been 7 years. I have one of those apps that tell you how much your health improved as you stay smoke-free. Another thing is that I kept on hanging out with smokers. I wanted to stay exposed to my environment. So far, so good. I still get cravings, but I don't act on them. But once a smoker, always a smoker, I could relapse if I start smoking again. Your third paragraph is the most significant. My story has similarities. I read an article in the paper showing stats that indicated that the cancer risk increased radically at 10 cigarettes a day. So I chose the 10 cigarettes that I craved the most, plus stuck with that. Occasionally, I would be in a bar or at a party and smoke more than my 10. But whenever that happened, I would go back to 10 cigarettes the very next day. About a year later, I dropped to 9 cigarettes, and stuck with that for quite a while, eventually to 8. After a long period of time, I was down to 1 to 2 cigarettes a day. One very busy day, I forgot to smoke. The next day I struggled, wondering if I was really ready to quit. I still have dreams about that day, about whether or not I should have a cigarette. I quit, and I haven't smoked in 22 years. That's really similar to how I quit. It took years of slowly cutting back, but one day I looked at the cigarette I was smoking and realized it was my last one. It's been 17 years. Vaping, then a nicotine-free vape. Smoked Reds for 10 years, quit in Nov 2020 after a month of vaping. This is what finally worked for me. I actually went up in nicotine to start to make the cig seem less appealing. I cut the nicotine level in half every week until I was mixing 0 with the lowest level. Used it at 0 for about a week and just tossed it. Same. All the anti-vape stuff weirds me out because if it weren't for vaping, I'd still be smoking. It was the only thing that helped. Patches and gum didn't do shit. Deciding you no longer want to be a smoker. It really is a psychological thing, not physical. For me, it was the realization that even as a smoker, I still spent a large proportion of my life not having a cigarette in my hand or mouth. That I could even go 6 or 7 hours, i.e. while asleep, without wanting one. After that, it was a reasonably short step to not smoking at all. One of the biggest blocks to stopping is the belief that it's hard to stop. If you think it's hard or impossible, it's easy to talk yourself out of quitting before you even try. I convinced myself that it was gross. Do you have an old soda can of butts on your porch? Think about drinking it. Have you ever smelled someone who just smokes and drinks black coffee? They smell like literal poop. Think about that. It makes you smell poopy. Gross yourself out. Yay, someone on Reddit described vaping as sucking on a battery attached to a tampon soaked in mystery juice or something like that, and it's been a great deterrent whenever I'm tempted. Shifting your perspective of the habit to it being gross helps a lot. Lifestyle changes. First, no smoking while driving, and by extension, working. Second, no cigarettes at home. I had to pick up a pack before hitting a bar or another smoking-allowed environment. Then, I quit drinking. The hedonism of chain smoking and taking shots are too intertwined for me. My grandfather smoked heavily for most of his life and suffered from dementia in his later years. My grandmother decided to help him stop smoking. One morning, he went outside to his usual spot and his ashtray and cigarettes weren't there. He asked my grandmother, "Where are my smokes?" She replied, "Smokes? What are you talking about? You've never smoked a day in your life." He bought it. Gotta be cruel to be kind, I guess. OMG. We did the same thing with my grandma who smoked for 60 plus years. She had Alzheimer's and had been accidentally burning her lip and lighting the wrong end of the cigarette. And obviously we were scared she'd burn the house down overnight or something too. So one morning we took her cigs and lighters. She said she couldn't find them, and we were all like, "What? You quit smoking like a year ago. You've been doing such a great job." And she'd always be like, "Ooh, you're right." Honestly, I'm so relieved to see your comment. This all happened when I was a kid and didn't really understand dementia. Part of me feels guilty, like this was so cruel. But I guess at the same time, my grandma and your grandpa probably felt so much better physically after quitting. Surely it was for the greater good, lol. COVID. 10 plus years smoking 1 to 2 packs a week. Got sick with COVID. Couldn't smoke for 2 weeks. Got my taste and smell back. Now they discuss me. I take 0 credit here. Edit to add. I got sick with COVID, but not sick. I was vaccinated. Felt crappy for sure, but was not hospitalized. COVID changed my taste buds or something. That's why I take no credit. I got the flu and my body decided it hated them. I met a girl who did not smoke. I decided that if I wanted to be together with her, I needed to quit. I still have cravings every so often. And I do occasionally have a cigarette at a party, but never more than once every couple of years. And the moment I have it, I regret it as it no longer tastes good, or feels good, just makes my mouth taste like an ashtray and makes me queasy. I'm very glad for that fact, if I'm honest, resets that craving for another couple of years. For me, it was taking one tiny step after another. Just go to lunchtime. Okay, now go to tea time. Great job, see if you can do a whole day. Fantastic. How about 2 days? Brilliant. Now bet you can't manage a week. And so on. That was 23 years ago. It was hell, but oh so worth it. I had a mantra that helped me in darker moments. I'd rather be 45 wishing I could smoke than 65 wishing I hadn't. Now I'm that 65-year-old and I thank that former ME every single day. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe, press like, and comment if you ever quit smoking. And how did you feel after it?